So I'm just gonna hit the record button. We'll get started here. So I'll just kind of jump into this. Looks like, so Doran, you I know you're a wedding planner, but you're planning events, stress, complication to stress free. Trisha says easing anxiety around eating with complications of weight and disease. That's a good one. Anxiety right there. Okay, so we got our pain point there. How about you, Carl? What do you do?
Hey, Marshall.
Nice to see you.
Pleasure to be on this call. I'm kind of early in the process, and finding words to articulate exactly how I help others. Right now I have a mind-body practice, it's a hands-on practice, and I'm looking to transition I have found that I'm a very good active listener, and I tend to reflect back to the folks that I work with based upon their word choice and their energy in the way they're sharing. So my interest is in more of an investigation, more of an inquiry, you might say, and an exploration around how people, how others are maybe having difficulty in terms of being their true self, finding obstacles to that, listening to how people maybe hide, or I haven't quite found the word. So
right. Yeah.
I'm trying to find the word for myself. I'm very good at finding it for others, but for myself, it's a little challenging. So
all right. Yeah, I think today's class will help you start to refine that a bit, and also point you at some bigger resources that can help narrow that down. Because once we understand what we want to solve, then things get a lot simpler for us.
Great.
So let's jump in here and let's do this. So this is class 1, developing your offer based on the pain you solve. This is a deliberate, this little statement, developing your offer based on the pain you solved, took me from about 40 grand a year to 120 grand. And added 80K to my baseline. Over the last year, it's made my life so much more simple in understanding how to reach, how to connect to, and how to nurture my target market. So you need to understand what your pain is, and the pain needs to be specific. So we're going to get into that. So welcome. I'm going to give you a little bit on who I am. Then we're going to go through the 4 questions, then begin looking at crafting an offer and then explore together. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. There's going to be 3 more classes. The next class will be on Monday at 1 p.m. my time. We'll be looking at the technical elements of this, of setting things up online, which is one of my past brilliances or expertise, was IT and tech. So we'll get into it on Monday. But before you know what you need technologically, you need to know what on earth you're going to be doing, because that determines a lot of what you're going to need short-term and long-term for what you're going to do. Okay, most of this can be started off with free utilities, free resources, or very low-cost resources, and then scale it up. So, because right now my business operating costs are $700 a month to run everything digitally. That does not include marketing. Marketing will always be a chunk. It's usually going to be 30 to 40% of your revenue if you're going to do it through Facebook or YouTube. But operating costs, the things that keep you operating and growing, mine's about $700 a month. And that's the power of the digital system, is you can get it down. I mean, $700 to run a business is really, really affordable. And that includes like the personal rent for my office. That includes the subscriptions I have for software and things like that. So that can make it really, really affordable. And it can even go down farther depending on what kind of things you choose to spend money on. So let's get into it. All right, so welcome. I'm Marshall Berkshire. And if you don't know me, I'm a former computer geek. I'm also into classic cars. I'm restoring a 1970 Chevelle Malibu, which is my grandmother's. She willed it to me when she passed away 22 years ago. And so I've just been putting some love into that pupper. I am a father of two. That's my son, Truman, my daughter, Shaylee. I'm also a recovered codependent mentor to survivors of narcissistic abuse. That's my specialty. I've got nearly 12 years in working on this specific segment, both personally and professionally. I've worked with thousands of people around the world. And then I've been in the online space, the digital space, for 4 years. And in the last 12 months in that space, I've made over $80,000, which, if you look at the way most life coaches succeed, very few ever get to that number. Most of them are stuck in the $30,000, $40,000 range. Mostly it's because they don't know how to serve their people specifically, and then how to market effectively. And that's still me. I am not a naturally gifted marketer, so I work really hard to work that through. And it's been worth it because it's helped me produce some significant change without adding significant work. That's one of the big advantages to the digital dynamic is if I put in 2 hours of work a day, I still make the same amount of money. Now, if I want to scale my time or scale my money, it's about refining the process. It's about refining the system, not adding more time to the calendar. So you can create a lot of automation with digital systems, especially with course-based systems. So, and that's what I do. I run 2 specific courses right now, one called the Happiness Strategy and the other called Rapid Heal. Rapid Heal is entirely automated, and the Happiness Strategy is a course that's also automated, but I also teach it live 3 times a year. All right, so what I teach you guys today comes from a specific lineup of people, and jot these names down. And these are people you need to Google, you need to Facebook, and you need to follow them. These people are experts in doing this. They've made an enormous amount of difference in my ability to succeed. I work with 2 of them personally, Juliet and Scott. And later this year, I hope to work with Sam. But Sam Ovens, this guy, he makes about $50 million a year in just course sales. This guy knows what he's doing. He's a little eccentric. He's kind of robotic, but he knows his shit. You really want to get a deep dive into marketing mindset and how to execute courses and how to shift your point of view on things. YouTube him. He's got a number of fantastic free trainings there. Juliet Tangent, I worked with her last year, and she's the one responsible for taking me up to over 80K in sales. Fantastic person to follow. She actually doesn't sell. It was called 7 weeks to 7 figures. She no longer offers that because she works exclusively with large ticket people who are making $1 to $5 to $10 million a year nowadays. But if you go to her Facebook page, she's got videos after videos training you on how to think, and then how to pitch, and how to outline what you do for your market. So I highly recommend her. Scott Oldford, he has a system called ROI, which is relevancy, omnipresence, and intimacy. I'm using his system for the marketing elements, the automated marketing elements of my business. Fantastic education there. And then Russell Bronson, if you know ClickFunnels or you live in Boise and you've heard of ClickFunnels, you'll know Russell. He's very, very prominent in this field. He also owns the ClickFunnels system, which is a digital marketing platform. You build web pages that go from page to page and produce sales based on the copy on those pages. And then Ian Stanley, I use him for copy, along with Des Dobrevra. Ian Stanley is a funny guy. He puts out a lot of satirical videos making fun of or doing parodies of other major marketers. He has a very simple point of view on marketing, and that is getting people to emotionally connect with your product, connect with your benefit, and then build trust on that. Because people, and you'll want to write this down, people only buy from people they know, like, and trust. Know, like, and trust. So you got to build rapport, because marketing these days isn't McDonald's marketing. It's like, I'm going to go to McDonald's and get a shitty burger. No, it's about connection. It's about being understood. It's about being seen and valued. And the person that you're connecting with, your target market, needs to know that you get them, that you understand them here in the heart. Not analytically, that, you know, knowledge is fun, but when a person connects to you and they go, you get me, you put words to my experience I didn't have, that's when you're going to start getting sales, because they trust you and they have hope, because now you're becoming a leader, a guide out of whatever it is, whatever the pain is that they're facing. And then Des de Brevra, she is a European professional. This woman rather, she knows what she's doing, but she is brash. So if it punches a little bit, if people are really blunt with you, beware of Des and beware of Juliet, because they don't pull any punches. They're right to the point. They'll tell you if you're full of shit. And they've done it to me. They're like, nope, you're going on the shit path there, Marshall. Back to here, back to here. So they want you to succeed, but they're very good at doing that. So these are the people you're going to want to follow to expand your capability in succeeding in your experience. All right. So let's jump into the 4 questions here. There are 4 questions. I posted those in the group a couple of days ago. Question 1, what pain do I cure? Question 2, who do I serve that has this pain? 3, what makes me different than others in serving this pain? And number 4, what return on investment do my clients routinely get on a lasting basis? So we're going to go into each of these questions at depth. This is where you're welcome to interrupt me, ask questions. We can discuss your position and what you're looking at there, things like that. Question number 1 is all about the pain. I start with pain. I don't start with who I serve. And most other people start with who I serve. So who do you serve? What's your target market? What's your niche? And I reverse the order from niche to pain, because the pain is your niche. And then you find the who you serve in that pain, okay? So it relates to a concept I teach my clients called what, how, who. What do I do? How do I do it? Who aligns with that? So what do I do, or what do I address? What pain do I address? How do I address it? Who aligns with that approach? This defines your niche. It needs to be damn specific. Like mine is codependency, specifically people not getting results in therapy or self-help. Boom. So when you think about pain, you can go I could go more narrow. I help people struggling with shame from codependency or shame from narcissistic abuse, because that's the dominant factor in that. Or I can go with trauma, like love addiction, internalized loneliness. There's ways to get specific, but the more specific you get with the words you use that describe your target market, the more you can communicate to that market in their language. Okay? And this creates relevancy and intimacy. It creates a trust. This is one thing that people don't understand with marketing. Effective marketing is I'm talking to you like a human being. I'm not talking to you in like techno speak. Any thoughts or questions on that? The typing. So yeah, your pain needs to be specific. So what pain, like Trisha, your example, easing anxiety around eating with complications of weight and disease. That's very, very specific. That's on target, because now you're addressing people who have anxiety around those specific things. They're going to know instantly, I know if that relates to me. So I'll be able to say yes or no to that, which is what you want. You want people to say yes and no to what you're proposing, because that's what leads people to buy. And that also is what leads people not to buy. You don't need people in your course that aren't going to get the benefits of what you're teaching. You want people in there that have the highest probability of success and lasting results, not just, oh, I got a result in 2 weeks. What results are they getting 2 years down the road, 10 years down the road? That's what you want to be focused on. There's a lot of coaches focus on immediate low-hanging fruit, and that gives it's a rush, like, oh, I got a big result. But then they don't address the long-term process. I see this repeatedly. I address the long-term process by building it into the process. That's the goal. I take people from codependency to happiness. That's why it's called the happiness strategy. Happiness is a perpetual thing that we can learn how to receive. So think about that. It's a long-term benefit of resolving the pain. Because when we understand what the pain is, then you can start looking at the benefits as well. So like, for instance, Carl, in your experience, what you're looking at, is there a specific kind of pain that you really gravitate towards?
Well, it's interesting. I can actually relate to your own specialty as you've articulated it. I'm also a survivor of the codependency/narcissistic abuse background.
Mm-hmm.
I've been involved in men's work for 5 years, and but I'm not confined just to talking with men. Oftentimes, for me, the tell often shows up in relationship and in relationship dynamics. Mm-hmm. And that's of particular interest to me, authentic relating and, communication. And of course, you have to unpack shame. So you're speaking my language. I hadn't really articulated it the way you have, but these are all areas where I've made personal inquiry over the last, I would say, 8 or 9 years, and it's slowly crystallizing. So that's how I would answer that right now.
Okay, cool. Now, a couple of tips on discovering the pain you want to serve come from the happiness strategy. Okay, so happiness strategy is based on 3 principles: the value, voice, and vision. When you know what your value is as a human being, you start to know what you want to do, because you start hearing yourself. You're like, oh, I want to serve this. I want to contribute to this. And the way that shows up is with joy, curiosity, play. I also kind of like calm. I put calm in there too a lot of times, but you want joy, curiosity, and play at a minimum. So if you're going to put the time, the energy into something that you're going to serve people in, you're going to take the risks, you're going to grow in this, you need to be hungry for it. And that hunger shows up as a desire of curiosity, joy, and play. Because if you love serving people in this particular pain segment, you're going to be happy. You're going to have a lot of fun with it. And that's going to make your work more effective, because it's where your brilliance is. It's interwoven in there. I love teaching the happiness strategy, because I watch people change within 2 or 3 weeks that have been in therapy for 3 decades. I have one student, Vivian, 22 years of 22 counselors, 40 years of therapy. And they're in week 10 now. And she's like, my life is, I'm loving it. That's the power of being excited about what you do, because your work has the energy imbued in it. So when you're doing something you love, that energy helps those who partake of that work you do. It empowers them, expands them, because there isn't this heaviness around it. And that's the other signal you want to watch for. Something feels really, really heavy to your body. Your body's saying, no, something's up here. We need to step back and listen. We need to get in tune with what's light for us, what's joyful for us. Okay. Now, I'm just going to clarify this. A lot of people confuse light and heavy with ease or fear. Fear can be light and fear can be heavy. They're separate. Okay. Pleasure can be heavy and pleasure can be light. They are separate. Light means true for you in this moment. Heavy means false for you in this moment. It's just kind of like this intuitive director. And it can change. Like today, something on this list may be heavy and tomorrow may be light. That's just kind of your intuition saying, hey, focus on this, play with this for a little bit. So as a guy who's done this for 12 years, the more you play, as you develop your work, the easier it's going to be and the more success you're going to have, because you can get on video, you can get on Facebook, you can put your material out and it feels good despite it having some anxiety or uncertainty or pushing those limits a little bit. All right. So your pain needs to be directly relevant to the solution. Okay. So if I'm treating shame in relationships and the solution is about money, nothing's going to make sense, right? That's an obvious disconnect right there. So you need to think about the solution you have and make sure it relates to the actual pain you're solving. Because sometimes we think we have the right solution, the right idea in our mind of how to address this thing, and it doesn't actually relate to it. I've made this mistake several times. My first course was Shovel Your Shit. Did not do well, obviously. But it was about taking your power back. And if I'd called it Back to Power, I think I would have gotten a better response on it. But it was also not properly focused on shame, because shame was the problem I was trying to solve, but it's trying to solve it through power, and shame isn't solved through power. I knew that at the time, but I didn't connect the dot at the time. So you got to make sure your pain is directly relevant to the solution you create, and it needs to be obvious to your target market, right? It's like, it's got to be a duh. It's like, oh, like when people ask me, how do you work with people with codependency? And I'm like, well, I connect them back to their value, their voice, and their vision. And they're like, oh, I get it. You help them find their sense of worth, know their voice, so they know what to choose. I'm like, yep. Value, voice, and vision. You want it to be that simple. You want it to be formulaic, because then people remember it. I mean, I see it all the time in people who are not students of mine, but they're maybe a member of my community, or they follow me on Facebook, and they'll be tagging me in posts, or they'll be commenting on things, and they're like, I found my voice. I'm seeing my vision. See, it connects with them. It makes sense to them because it's relevant to their pain. Because in codependency, you don't know who you are. You have no clue what's going on. Your voice is muddled with everybody else's voice. Value, I need somebody to approve of me. Oh, if I got my value back, who would I be? If I knew my voice, what would I be doing? If I had my vision, what would I have? Where would I be in my life? See? Right? So your solution needs to be directly relevant to the pain, and it needs to make sense to the client. Like, Doran, you just went,
Yeah.
Yeah. So am I hitting a button there with my description of how I treat codependency?
I mean, I've experienced that, but I mean, as someone who has been through your program, I've experienced that. I'm going, yeah, value, voice, vision. Yeah, I got all that. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're in a happy relationship. You're building a business. I mean, your life in the last 2 years is radically different than what it was when we started.
Rapidly different, and changing and changing for the better every day. Yeah. And it's because I found those things, but seeing it from your perspective and how you marketed that. I mean, yeah, I am not a super suggestive person when it comes to marketing. I'm kind of oblivious to it, but I mean, you nailed it hook, line, and sinker with me, and it worked. So, right.
Yeah. And did it build trust? What did it do for you when it clicks for you? How does that feel for you?
Yeah, the trust thing. But mostly trusting myself, trusting that, I know my value. I know what I envision from my life, and trusting my voice, that's been huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the marketing helped you understand it. Right.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, it got you into the program, but yeah. So see, guys, that's the power of having something very direct. Mm-hmm. There's this communications principle I teach called direct, clear, and simple communication. And I was reevaluating my marketing over the last week with all this COVID stuff, because I've taken a step back from it, because I have a moral, like, you don't press people during times of crisis for money. I'm like, no, but you provide leadership, you provide support, you provide direction, right? you show up as the integrity to your own claims. But I realized I wasn't being very direct, clear, simple in my communication about what I do, because people are like, can I work with you? And I'm like, oh, I'm not communicating that effectively. And it's that direct. It's like, yep, I'll help you. Here's how you do it. You go to the happiness strategy, you sign up, we get you going. Direct, clear, and simple. Boom, boom, boom. So you got to be willing to be that bold and clear in your marketing. Hey, you want to be free of that anxiety around eating with complications of weight and disease? Hit me up, PM me, let's do this. We'll get you from A to B. Okay? So question number 1 is that pain. You want to understand that pain. The pain needs to just be described in a target's words and worldview. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit here after we do with the who. So let's go to question. Any thoughts or questions on question 1?
No.
Are we good? If you're new to Zoom, there's a I call it thumb up. There's a raise your hand button under the more function. And if you're ready to go, just hit that thumb up. And bring your personality, bring you into your work, guys, because people don't want dryness. They want you, and they want what you bring to them. So your personality, your quirks, stuff like that, let that shine. Very, very good and important, because we're not dealing with corporate marketing bullshit these days. We're dealing with person-to-person relevancy and intimacy. So thumb up if you're ready to go. Put that personality in there. All right. So question number 2 is all about who. Who do you serve? And this is defined by the pain. So for instance, with codependency, you'd think that that's actually pretty narrow. But I can serve men, I can serve women, I can serve couples. I can serve specific people dealing with love addiction and only focus on that. I could focus on individuals dealing with the gaslighting component of codependency. How about the communications or boundaries? See how you can break it down? So when I know the pain and I start looking at who, I'm looking at who is dealing with this particular pain and how do they intermix? What do they really struggle with in this niche? What's the hot item? What's the pain that really gets it in there? So sometimes it's boundaries for people. Sometimes in my niche, boundaries, relationships like connection or attachment are always the hot button, or trauma bonding, the distress of the discard cycle. So who do you serve? So it can be gender. It could be a specific income segment or education segment in that as well, if you get into the technical elements of it. This is going to define your niche, though. Niche equals profitability and ease in your marketing yourself. So I help people pleasers, narcissistic abuse survivors that are not getting results in therapy get results within 13 weeks. Boom. People know if it's for them or not. Like for you, Trisha, how would you state who you help?
That's a good question. But probably people that have been trying to diet and not getting the results they want, but it's more along the lines of people who are frustrated because they can't do what society thinks that they should do. So it's a frustration with society.
There you go. Write that down. I'm helping people frustrated with social expectations around diet and weight.
Yeah.
Something like that. Now, these are phrases and terms you're going to test against your market and see what the results are. Like when I talk about value, voice, and vision and codependency, I stick with that because people give positive feedback on it. And one of the forms of that positive feedback is sales. The other form is people going, oh my God, I get it. You're speaking my language. You understand what I'm going through. So very, very important. And I want to emphasize niche. The more narrow and specific you get with what you do, the easier it is to sell what you do. It's easier to build trust. It's easier to communicate about it. It's easier to market about it. Most coaches go broad. We're like, oh, I can do all sorts of things. I can do relationships, and I can do traumas, and I can do depression and anxiety, and I can do, if I'm in my market, in my segment, that's what they all tend to do. We're just going to do it all. And they don't make a lot of money because nobody really knows if that person's really relevant for them. Get really specific. Like I have an entire course on eliminating anxiety. I have an entire system on eliminating trauma all by itself, but that's not my niche. Those are important tools to my primary niche, which is helping codependents that are not getting results in therapy get results fast. See? Boom. And I found that that works extremely well for me. So niche matters. Don't be scared of getting narrow, because that's where all your profit's going to come in. And then you can lead in that pond. You become a big fish in a narrow pond really quick, and then you can expand it a little bit. Like this November, I'll be doing what's called relationship strategy. I'm expanding my pond a little bit. Things like that. So there's ways to expand the pond, but only once you've got your dominance in your particular niche, where you feel like, hey, I'm making a name for myself. People are referring to me. People are talking about me. I'm getting paid well for what I do, and I'm getting long-lasting results for my students and clients. Okay, so niche. Niche also includes worldviews. This is important. This is something I got from Des DeBrevera's work. This concept of worldview. Because most of the time with marketers, they're going to do what's called an avatar. Are they male? Are they female? How much money do they make? What segments do they work in? What are their likes and their dislikes, their interests, things like that. It's almost like a dating profile. But she took it in a different direction, which really helped me. She talks about this concept called worldview. This is how they see the world. It's how they see themselves, and it's how they see their problem. So if I'm coming from the point of view of a codependent, I see myself as a burden. I see myself as unworthy, as broken. I see the world as ideal and perfect, and I don't deserve to be included. Because this is the worldview of a codependent, right? Yeah. Now I can, if I understand that worldview, then I can understand the beliefs in that worldview, the habits, the common mind and emotional barriers to action in that, which are critically important if you're going to get them to take action, and the desires and hopes they have. Very, very important there. If you don't understand the worldview, you can't speak to them at their level. And this is where we get into words and worldview specifically. So any thoughts or questions on question 2 slide before we go to the words and worldview? We good? Happy-go-luckies. Yeah, okay. Okay, so words and worldview. Words, this is the language they use. The labels and terms they use. The statements and phrases they use. It's not you using. It's not your language. It's their language. This is what Donald Trump does extremely well. And this is why he has the loyalty he has. Is he speaks to his base at their level. He does not speak down to them. He speaks at their level with them. And that builds trust because it builds understanding very, very quickly. So one of the tricks with this is to get rid of what's called technobabble. Okay. Anybody want to get a little picked on? Anybody? Technobabble's personal, right?
Sure.
Special words.
Yeah.
You'll go for it? Okay. So actually, in some of our discussion here, there's a particular word you use that is creating an out of box or out of niche communication, and it's the word inquiry. I highly doubt your niche uses that word. So it's not a bad word, but the word is going, language creates either relationship or division, right? Space or connection. An inquiry is an interesting word, but it's not a word that most people are going to connect with effectively. We're like, oh, we're getting a college class right now. Neat. Some people might even interpret the word as inflated, like, oh, look at that. He's using big words. It's a weird reaction people have to it. But the thing is it doesn't create trust and it doesn't create homogeny. Like if I'm talking to you at the level of a just a human being, I'm like, how are you doing, girl? What's up? How's life? You know, that is inquiry in action, but I'm not using the word. So you got to get casual. And then if you have technobabble words, you need to define them. So finding technobabble words pretty easy. It's the special words you use or the technical terms you use to describe what you address. For me, one of those words is trauma bond. Most people don't know what trauma bond is. Most people can conceptualize love addiction, though. Or you can even take it down a level even more close to it, craving the other person, going insane without them, feeling gutted and empty. See, now we're getting into the real language of that person's experience. So what are you guys' thoughts? What are your guys' thoughts on that? Because it's a trick. It's taken me a couple of years to really dumb down my thinking to getting out of the techno speak. I was in IT for decades, and so there was this habit of, oh, I gotta communicate, blah, 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 tech. But I was actually hired in the positions I had because I could translate it in a way that made sense to people who weren't in IT. I just didn't realize I was doing that. They'd be like, what the hell is an IP address? I'm like, well, it's your address, like on your road. It's the same thing. It's just for a computer. And I'm like, oh, you get it. So we got to think about how we can take the worldview of the person we're working with and translate our technical stuff into a language that connects with their experience. That's your job anyway as a coach, is to take complex things and bring them into a direct, clear, and simple format. Because when things are direct, clear, and simple, they become a lot easier to trust and a lot easier to experiment with. This is why I have a 90% success rate, is because I give people very simple, direct processes in their language that they can use with as little fear as possible, little resistance as possible. Because I deal with a lot of pain. Codependency is a painful process to exit. And so understanding that worldview and the journey that comes for them, my job is to make it more joyful and less painful as fast as possible, but as efficiently and effectively as possible. So when you're thinking about worldview, that mind state, God, I have to deal with all this pain again, and all I've known is pain. All I've known is emptiness. All I've known is being rejected and feeling like an outsider. How are you going to help me deal with that, Marshall? Do you even understand that that's my world? How can you help me understand myself if you can't express to me that you understand even my basic pain? That's what we need to be asking ourselves. Do I really understand their experience? And then can I demonstrate, both in my words and in my results, that I can take them from that place across the gap to where they want to be? Okay? Especially if you're dealing with pain. Going from codependency to happiness is like going from Earth to Mars for some people. But when I outline it with, well, once you got your value, your voice, and your vision, happiness becomes a natural result. Suddenly they're like, oh, this seems a little more probable, a little more practical for me. So worldview and your pain and how you solve it all need to, the pain and the way you solve that pain need to be translated into your worldview. If that makes sense, into their worldview. Any thoughts or questions on that?
Makes sense to me.
That's you. Okay.
Like that.
So be mindful of technobabble. Anytime you have to use technobabble, always define the technobabble. You'll see Russell Brunson do this all the time, because he'll say, we create funnels for, you know, people to sell their stuff. What on earth is a funnel? He's like, it's a step-by-step process that leads your client, your potential client, from understanding their problem to making a sale. Boom. Now you know what a funnel does. Creates understanding and creates sales. Okay, I know what to do. Your solution needs to be that simple. If it's complicated, you need to step back and look at why it's complicated. You're probably too close to the details. You need to go to more of a big picture view. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So worldview, over and over and over, I can't emphasize this enough, that we're understanding their worldview and speaking to them and connecting to them at that level is where you're going to make, one, you're going to be seen as a leader, as an expert, as an authority, and you're going to make money and you're going to make impact. That's, for me, that's been the biggest change, is changing my worldview, which then led me to change the words I use. Now I use a lot of their labels, their phrases, their statements. Even though I was a codependent for 25, 30 years, I had healing your own work, and especially in the healing work, you actually lose contact with those experiences. It's kind of a weird thing, and you go into more of this different phrasing of things. So I had to go back and really get back in contact with the way I used to speak, the way I used to see the world. So what I do with words is I have a Google Doc, and every time somebody makes a comment, or they share something in class or during live mentoring hours or in an email to me that's coming from their language, and I'm like, oh, there it is. I copy and paste that into this Google Doc. And I'm like, I'm going to use that language in my marketing. And I literally have copied and pasted statements clients and students and members have sent me and put it in marketing. And it's just like, oh, you get me, that kind of thing. And I do get it because I've been through it, but that's a way to keep in contact with the language and worldview of the people you're serving, and help bridge the gap between their worldview and the worldview you're taking them into. Especially if you're doing healing work, you're doing worldview transition work. So that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Now, Doran, in relationship to your specific niche, because you're helping people plan events stress-free, right?
Mm-hmm.
Describe their worldview.
No, it's funny. I was just writing that down. I guess there's levels. You know, in the beginning, I think my clients are very happy. They're very elated. They're very joyful. But I think when they get into the process, they get very frustrated. There's a lot of anxiety. There can be a lot of exhaustion from trying to make so many decisions about, you know, any one of 20 different types of processes that need to happen. And everybody involved is reliant on this individual's decision about what they want to do. It can be very overwhelming for my clients sometimes. So, you know, I find that sometimes that happiness sort of leaves them quickly when they get into the nitty-gritty of planning an event.
Yep. Okay, so you've got their worldview there, and one word that came to mind for me, having done weddings and having been through many, was complicated. Another one is overwhelming.
Yes.
Right. These are key languages. These are part of their worldview words. You can relate to them through. Okay?
Yeah, and a very specific thing about talking about being very specific. Probably 95% of the events that I plan are destination weddings. So they're people who are
Mm.
at a distance. So, you know, there's
Distance.
another sort of focused thing about, particularly about the system that I've created. There's a lot of times I don't meet my client face to face until the weekend that they're getting married. So,
Yeah.
you know, developing processes and communications with them, you know, I think is what makes what I do unique. You know,
Yep.
because,
Yeah. Keep going.
yeah. So, but yeah,
Nice.
you know, I was sitting there writing down those, you know, trying to think about that while you were talking. You know, what's my bride's worldview? What is,
Yeah.
you know, or any client that I work with, you know, and I think that's, you know, pretty accurate.
Yep. And you're going to know it's accurate because of the way they respond to you when you market to them.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the trick. Don't assume you know you're accurate.
Yeah.
Let the results of your efforts tell you what's going on. Sometimes we like to get into a pipe dream, a little fantasy. It's like, oh, I figured it out. I'm going to put it out there, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Right. And then one day you're just kind of like winging it. And you're like, here you go, splat onto Facebook, and you get 6 sales. Happens to me all the time. It's because we're overthinking it. We're not really connecting with the market. And then one day we do. So let your results teach you how to communicate with them. Okay. Results are what matters. So how people are responding. If you're doing social media work, it's how many times you get a heart or a like, how many times you get shared. But the result that matters most, in my opinion, is a sale.
Oh yeah.
If you get a sale, you really you nailed it on the head for someone.
Yeah.
And then learning how to refine it so you can get a more consistent, a flywheel effect on those sales. Very, very important. Okay. One thing you touched on there, Dorian, leads us into question number 3, which is differentiation. Let me define that word, because guess what? That's a technobabble word. So, differentiation means you are able to separate yourself from someone else. It means I can clearly understand me and you in the space between. That's differentiation. Okay. So it's being clearly autonomized to yourself. Autonomy means I'm me, just I'm myself. So I look at marketing differentiation from that point of view. How can I be myself in a way that is clearly me, so I am clearly distinct from my competitors? Because if my market can't discern me from Lisa Romano or InterIntegration or a number of other people getting into this space, then I'm failing to communicate with my market effectively from who I am. Because part of your differentiation is your style, who you are, the energy you bring. One of my differentiators I repeatedly get feedback on is how I can take a complicated dynamics and create simplicity out of them so that things work quickly and effectively for people. I'm very good at systems that way. Second one is I can put words to people's experiences that they've been looking for years. I have an in-depth experience with their experience too. So your differentiation is going to come through a number of different ways. Like for you, Dorian, you understand the communications process and the complicated nature of destination-based weddings. Mm-hmm. That's a differentiation big time in the wedding world.
Yeah.
Huge, especially the communication component. Because I'll tell you, in the 21 weddings I did, communication, I'm going to shoot somebody. So yeah, there's some brilliance there, and that's an important thing because the bride wants to feel secure that her big day is going to work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And how does that happen? How does that happen, Dorian? How do you make them feel secure?
Sorry, what was that?
How do you make them feel secure?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, you know, I return phone calls and I communicate with them. You wouldn't believe how many people in my industry don't do that.
Yep.
But also, you know, by having answers for them, you know, but most of all, I don't know, I guess I have an understanding, you know, of what they're trying to achieve, but I think I'm also very empathetic to the other things that are involved that they deal with.
Yeah.
You know, family pressure. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm more of a counselor to people sometimes than even someone who helps them plan, because they do. There's a lot of overwhelming things that surround an event.
Yeah. See, this is part of your differentiation.
Yeah.
So make note of those things, because when you understand that about yourself, this is where you can communicate and display and demonstrate that in your communication, your marketing, stuff like that. So this also is what helps you make your solution to their pain different from others. You're a little deeper into the pain than, say, other planners are, right? You're like,
Yeah.
I got you emotionally in this. I got your back. That's one of my differentiators, is like, I got your back. I understand it. I know this is chaos. It's all going to work out. Consistency, leadership. Now, differentiation can come in how you do the thing. It can come in with how effective or long-lasting that thing is, what the quality of it is. Quality is subjective. Quality can be about the material function or the material experience of the thing if you're producing a product. For me, quality is effectiveness and it's staying power. I have clients that I've done 12 years that have never come back to me, but I check on them and they're like, I don't need to come back, Marshall. It's been 10 years. I'm happy. Thanks for checking in though. How are you? See? Effectiveness. I have a personal motto when it comes to this, is I work myself out of a job with every single client, because I don't want them coming back with the same problem. I want their problem to be solved so they can move on with their lives. And then I can do even more creative things. Like a lot of people are asking for this relationship stuff. So I'm like, okay, we'll do that. So there's always another problem. There's this funny thing Russell taught me, and he says, every time you solve a problem, you create a problem. Because with one solution comes another opportunity. So if I'm solving codependency, I'm opening the world up to relationship. So that'd be the next step for me, that kind of thing. So that's a way you can create a brand, a system, a business that addresses really targeted things. That's why I have trauma clearing. That's why I have Rapid Heal, which is about love addiction and emotional trauma from narcissistic abuse. And that's why I have a happiness strategy, which is all focused on eliminating the need to be codependent. They all look the same until you get into, oh yeah, narcissistic abuse is about shame, fear, guilt, and fatigue. And it's related to value. So you can move them through the process, right? If you start at that base, you can move up to THS and then to Get Closure Now, and then you're free. So there's ways of looking at the how and how it works, but that can be part of your differentiation. So you got to be really specific. And this is something you'll discover over time as well, especially based on the testimonials you'll see from your clients. They'll point out how you're different right to your face all the time. Pay attention for that. Because I know, for instance, one of the big differentiators is that I make things simple. And I know that because they keep telling me that. Man, Marshall, this is simple. I was overwhelmed at first, but this is simple. I just do the steps and things work. Whoa. I'm like, yeah. And it's like, you give words to things I've never had words to. Thank you. Boom. This is where your differentiation is coming in. They will show you where that's at. Any thoughts or questions on differentiation? Oh, we're good. Okay. So ROI, return on investment. So what do they get? When they put their time and their money and their trust into you, what do they get on the other side of that gap? How long does that last? And how do they feel? People buy based on emotion, not logic. Please believe that, because it really does work. You can be as technical as you want, and they will not buy from you. But when you connect with them and, hey, are you tired of constantly craving and needing the narcissist back in your life and how it's destroying you? You tired of that pain and that terror? I have a 3-step process. I'll get you out of it. And I'll do it in 12 weeks. And it's persistent. It works long term. People are going to bite on that. So what do they feel? You want to be at peace again? You want to have your life back again? You want to have your sanity back? Boom, boom, boom. People buy benefits. Benefits are feelings most of the time. Like if I was going to go out and buy a car, for instance, I'm not buying the car for the utility of it unless that's my purpose. So if my purpose is utility, then I'm going to probably buy a truck. But if my purpose, the benefit I seek is enjoyment, then it might be a Mercedes. It might be another Chevelle. It might be something else that catches my eye. But I'm buying an experience, right? So when you look at the worldview of your target market, what are their hopes and dreams? What do they want to feel? And then that becomes part of the benefit. And your return on investment should lead them to that honest place of that result. Like, let's see, which one do I want to choose? Joy, for instance, she worked with me last year through THS and Get Closure Now. And she's like, I finally got to sell my house. I finally get to live where I want to live. She also gets to be free of the burden. She shares this a lot. I'm free of the burden of feeling guilty about how other people think about me. I disappoint a lot of people and I don't care. I feel free. Boom. Most people want power, freedom, love, i.e. pleasure. They don't want pain, right? And people are going to seek that through power, through love, through sex, through drugs, or through money. So which one does your category fall in? So return on investment needs to be clear and it needs to be persistent in my book. Don't give people temporary results because they'll end up distrusting you. You'll turn into a fraud in their minds because, it worked once, but now it's not working again. You want something that can last because then they're going to start referring people to you. And that's powerful right there. It's not the only means of growing your company, but it's an important means. Testimonials and behavior pattern changes point to return on investment, especially if you're working in the same kind of category I am. So you can look at the testimonials you're getting, and that'll tell you what return people are getting. Look for the emotional elements, and look for very clear elements like I feel better. I feel happier is a better one than I feel better. I am calm where I used to be terrorized. A common testimonial for the closure technique is I am totally at peace. Who wouldn't want to feel peace? Especially if you've been dealing with trauma for years, decades. So, and then for me, I always look at behavioral pattern changes because I'm dealing with a behavior pattern called codependency, because codependency is a product of the discard trauma. It is a coping mechanism or survival strategy for being discarded or unloved chronically, right? Notice how I made codependency really simple. It's a survival strategy to being unloved or love starvation, or sometimes I call it the discard trauma, and then I define that. So that language getting in there really speaks to the people that's targeted towards. So behavior pattern changes if you're dealing with things like that. Any thoughts or questions on return on investment? Go for it, Carl.
No, I'm good actually.
Good?
Yeah, I'm good.
So what kind of ROI have you guys seen in your present work? What kind of return on investment do your clients get?
On that, I can say with mine, like I said, when it comes to my testimonials, almost every one of them say that it was stress-free, which is a big thing in weddings. Stress free, that it was easy, that those are the most common ones. I mean, I got a testimonial from an event I did last weekend, and that was the first thing they said.
Stress free. Okay.
Yeah.
So, have you ever wondered what to call your course?
Yeah, but when we were talking about it, I'm just going to call it stress-free destination weddings. It's pretty direct, but
Yep.
I don't know. I have a hard time naming things.
Nope. Stress-free destination weddings.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the number one thing you get is stress-free,
yep,
it doesn't need to be all, pretty and flowery. It needs to be direct, so people know what the hell they're getting.
Yeah, exactly.
I give people happiness, and I give them a strategy to their happiness. I could also call it the freedom strategy, because happiness and freedom are the two biggest things I get feedback on.
Mm-hmm.
Along with peace, the peace strategy. But that didn't really test well. So they're like, what is this? It's like an international thing you're doing. I'm like, yeah. Not testing right at all. This is not a diplomatic mission to Alderaan or anything like that. So yeah, stress-free. So if you put the benefit in the title, suddenly people start going, I know what I want.
Yeah.
Right? It's like my company's name is Free the Self. I'm literally freeing the self from trauma, from codependency, from anxiety, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it might not be flowery, but that doesn't matter. All that matters is that it's effective.
Yeah. No, I agree totally.
Because the name is for your customers, it's not for you.
Yeah.
If you want a name for you, create your own product for you. It's like, oh, I want this blah, blah, blah thing for me. But you're doing this for your clients, not for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good, clear, strong benefit in the title. It's just going to make life so much easier. Like one guy I follow, Dan Henry, his system is sold out courses. What does he sell, guys?
Yeah, sold out courses.
Bingo. Happiness strategy. What am I selling?
Mm-hmm.
Happiness. So return on investment leads you to label things straight up. So it's direct, clear, and simple. So, 7 weeks to 7 figures is Juliet's. Boom, boom. And you know what you're going to get. So it's empowering that way. Okay. So once you know this, you can then start outlining a short 4-week course that targets the pain and produces the return on investment for your target. The reason I'm doing a 4-week short 4-week course is so that you can start playing with things right now. Get a feel for what it's like to create a course, because they're not an easy thing to do. I put in about 8 to 10 hours per class in my courses. And the happiness strategy is 13 weeks long. It's 130 to 150 hours of work. So you're going to invest some time to make this thing work right. Mine are that long because of the technicalities that are involved in helping people shift mentally, emotionally to a different belief system and a different action system. But other systems that are maybe more technical based, like for yours, Doran, yours could actually be pretty, you could have communication, venue management, vendor management, stuff like that. And so it may not be a 13-week long course. It could be 8 weeks long. It doesn't matter what it is as long as it's effective, right?
Yeah.
So, but I find if you do a 4-week course that targets the one specific pain and produces an immediate return on investment for your target, that little 4-week course can become like one of your low-cost lead magnets, like a $97 thing, that then you can you build trust through it, and then you can bump them into the high ticket, like a $2,000, $3,000 product, of course, depending on what your market segment's willing to pay and what they can afford, because you got to deal with demographics. Like you're dealing with weddings, Doran, so people are going to shell out thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So $2,000 course that can save them $10,000 on the price of their wedding, they're going to buy that.
Yeah.
in a heartbeat.
Exactly.
For me, most of my market segment makes between $30,000 and $80,000 a year. So I need to be sensitive to that price point. And a lot of my people are in high distress. So charging $5,000, $10,000 for a course is not going to fly. But I can charge $1,500 to $2,000 and people will buy that. So, and I also have I have what's called income aware pricing. So people can get into the course depending on where they're at in their income segment, just because I'm an ethical capitalist, meaning I'm going to respond to the actual context of the client. I don't need to squish people of their money when they need the resource and they don't have the ability to get it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the idea of a 4-week of a shorter course, I mean, that's exactly what I'd had in mind, is a very simplified version of what I take my clients through, exactly as you said, for a lead magnet to clients that need something more than that.
Yep. And this gives you qualified leads, and this gives you people who will already know and trust you and like you, and they'll just convert to sales a lot simpler. So now that you have a worldview, you have differentiation, you have ROI, you have a who you're going to serve and a pain you serve, you can define the 4-week course. We're going to talk about that a bit more on week 3. So I can give you some outlines on what the course should look like. It needs to target one specific big pain point. One. So if I was going to do, I'll put my example there. Sorry, not sorry, how to say no without guilt. So what does it do? What do you get?
How to say no.
Without guilt.
Yeah, without guilt.
Guilt-free say no, right? And it's 4 weeks. I ran it last year, did really well. People were happy with it. It needs to provide at least one specific benefit. My benefit is you get to say no without the guilt. The pain is saying no and feeling guilty. Like, oh God, I'm being a burden. I'm hurting their feelings, disappointing them. It's a very complicated thing, actually. But I simplify it so it becomes more effective. It needs to be how-to oriented. These are things, they've got to do something. Like, information is useless without application. So that's what I always tell my clients. Do the work, get the results. So it just needs to be how-to oriented. Some cool information provides some ahas, but then they get to do a simple process. Now, process needs to be oriented around connecting or bridging the gap between the pain and the benefit. And your expertise will outline that pretty quick, I imagine. This particular course you're doing should not require a lot of homework. It should not require a lot of effort on your part, complication on their part, or time investment on either of your guys' parts. Like, I built the Say No system in 1 day. Took me about 6 hours. 4 little videos, a simple little PDF that gave them a little map to follow, and boom, you're done. So you don't have to put a lot in it. Don't make them do a lot of work in this. You want them to get a result quickly. So boom. Let me know when you're ready for the next slide. Okay. So I always ask this question, what's coming up for you guys as you look at this? What's showing up in your awareness, in your brilliance, maybe even overwhelm? What's there for you?
I can say for me some clarity, because you and I have been talking about this for a really long time, and it's been sort of hard to kind of maybe navigate in my brain how to do it. But I'm super excited because this seems very clear and simple.
Good.
I would echo that sentiment as well. I have about 50 courses in my head.
You got some inspiration.
Well, it's pretty exciting to have it distilled down where I think Well, I know that listening to that, I realized how much pressure I put on myself to put so much into a course.
Yeah.
To try and
Exactly.
cover, yeah, trying to put so much value in to earn it. And I got it. I was like, oh God, I'm doing that thing.
Yeah. Trying to retrieve your value from your course.
Yeah, I got that right away. So thank you. That was ROI.
There we go. Excellent. Yes, it is. Making it simpler takes some of that pressure off. Okay. Anybody else?
Marshall,
Hey, Trisha.
could you describe what a 4-week course kind of looks like? I mean, is that like this, like a Zoom
Yeah.
videos? What?
Yeah, next week we'll get into the technicalities of it. What the technical look will operate like for the course. But what you want to do is figure out what pain you want to solve, how it's solved to create the ROI you want. And then that's going to define the technical aspects of it. Because some courses are just a video, like this is all video. You're not getting a PDF or anything, right? We're just meeting up. That's all you're ever going to get in this, because that's all that's necessary for you to succeed.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Trisha? What are your thoughts on
Yeah. So when you say 4 weeks, you're saying like one course per week. Is that what you mean?
Well, if you break down a course, it depends on your topic. So let's say I'll show you how I did the sorry, not sorry one. Let me open it up here. I'll pop it up in the resources. Oh, I know what to do. Pull up the page here. Word. Share this out. New share. Okay. Did the screen change?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the back end of my website. So we're going to go. Sorry. I'll just show you how the Sorry Not Sorry program looks. Well, it's join page, and then this should be challenge. Nope. Where did I put it? Because I know it's in here. So it's just running the damn thing. I'll just log into the university and show you the other ones I've done. Oh, actually, I might have done it on the university. I go there. Trying to remember how to log into the darn thing. Because I have everything in tabs these days, so I don't actually go into it all that much. Here we go. Let's go. Pages. Okay. So the way I set it up. Is down here. I'm thinking. Where did I put it? Obviously, I can't show you because I don't even know where I put it. I don't recall. Let's see. There might be another thing in here though. It's auto mode. Let's see. So we'll find it here. Oh. Yeah, then I'll just take you in the back end to like, yeah, let's do like codependent confidence. So I go into codependent confidence. There's a number of different trainings in here. But there's one that's specifically 4 weeks, and that's nurture. Okay. Nurture's goal is to help you connect emotionally with a need and then fulfill that emotional need. So the format is, as I outline the 10 core needs, because we all have 10 fundamental core needs, right? So week one's about information, and then it has an assessment with it. Okay. Week two is I'm addressing the common barriers or problems people have with their needs. They typically feel shame. They feel like a burden. They feel guilt for having their needs. They think their needs are a problem. They think they should not have needs. So in week two, I address that through the goodness of your needs, and then I introduce them to the process with a meditation technique that helps them create a new relationship with their needs. Week three, we go into what's called combinations, and combinations is all about advancing the use of the process they learned in week two. And then week four is connecting internal needs with external resources like other people, places, or things. That way the person is able to meet their needs internally and externally easily and safely. Does that help? That example, Trisha, does that help?
Pretty awesome.
So it looks like you're building off of each week.
Yeah, I outline the process itself, and then I split it into parts based on what do they need to understand, what barriers do I need to address, and then outline the process, advance the process until it's done. So if I was doing like shame, for instance, week one would be, why do we have shame? Where does this come from? What is shame? How do you know you're feeling shame? What's been your experience with shame? Week two would be identity and shame, because identity and shame are got a hand in glove kind of relationship. But in week two, I would introduce their tool, which would be the shame release guide from Rapid Heal. Week three would be about adaptation, getting used to being without the shame, discovering who you are beyond that shame. And week four would be, well, there's a number of directions you can go with week four. You can look at value, you can look at value, voice, you can look at vision, you can look at where they want to go with purpose, what's changing in their identity. You could have a Q&A if you wanted, but it's really about, that's the way I break it down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. That gives me some things to think about.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about that in week three. Oh, I closed my screen. So that it makes a little more sense with everything. Let me share my screen now again. Okay, so we got some brainstorming questions, because I have about half hour. We can sit here and brainstorm and do whatever you guys want to do, because I've got community chat here at 3, so I'll be ending this in about 30 minutes, so I can go provide some leadership and space to my people. So some things to think about as you brainstorm outlines, like we just did there with Trisha. So you've got an idea of what it's going to look like. So now you got to start thinking of what kind of technical elements this might require. Does it just need a page, like a web page, or does it need to be on something like Kajabi or Video? And we'll talk about the technical elements next week. But you got to think about what the technical requirements are going to be for this thing to work. So does it just need a web page, or does it need an entire web system behind it? Is there going to be an email sign up? Are you going to be doing video or just audio or both? Is there going to be an MP3 involved, or video trainings involved? Are there any kind of PDFs you're going to have to create? I do surveys because the more feedback you get, the smarter you get. But you're going to If you want to survey, you're going to know what to implement there. Is this going to be live or recorded? Is it going to be in a group format like what we're doing now? Or is it going to be a private meeting space, one-on-one? These are things to think about when you are looking at the technical requirements of your course. We'll get into more of that next week, but it's something I want you chewing on so that next week's information has a little more, we can move through it a lot quicker.
Marshall, are we going to do it the same date and time, in the sense the same day?
Monday at 3 p.m.
At 3 p.m. and you are 5 hours different?
I'm 3 hours ahead of you.
3 hours. Okay.
So it'd be 11. No. Let me, wait. I think.
Wait, are you Pacific time, Marshall?
No. 1 p.m. on Monday. 1 p.m. my time Monday. That'd be 11 a.m. Hawaii time. No, it's 10 a.m. 10 a.m.
10 a.m. Okay.
See?
If it's 3 hours, 10 a.m.
See,
Okay.
anybody have a course on making numbers work right in people's brains?
$97. Are you on Pacific time, Marshall?
I'm on Mountain Time.
You're on Mountain time.
Yeah, Mountain Daylight Time.
So wait, it's 1 p.m. Mountain time.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And was this recorded or?
Yes.
Or
Yep. It'll be uploaded later today, and I'll post a link in the community so you can watch it again.
okay. And you will upload it to Facebook? Or
Yep. I'll link it in the Facebook group.
Facebook?
It'll be loaded on YouTube, so it'll be unlisted on my YouTube channel, but you can watch it there at any time. And then later this evening, I'll create the class event for Monday's class, and then you can, I'll invite everybody to it, and you can confirm and whatnot. So we'll let Facebook do the heavy lifting on that end.
Thank you so much.
Marshall, I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you offline. How best can I get in touch?
Just PM me.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. If we're not friends on Facebook, just send me a friend request.
No, I think we are. So.
Okay. Yeah, then just PM me. Okay. So yeah, what I want you guys thinking about is what kind of technical requirements does this thing require? What questions do you have? Do you even know if these are the right technical? Do you even know what you want? These are good questions to write down, to understand, because we'll discuss those on Monday at 1 p.m. Mountain Daylight Saving Time. And we get that clear. And that's where I can give you a lot of guidance with these things, because I use a lot of different systems, and I have my own biases on what works well and what doesn't. But really what we want to do is find out what you need, and then you can go out and find the resources or the providers that really resonate for you. Because I'm a big fan of working with people I like working with. It's a lot easier to get things done. So that's questions. What does it require from technology is the question to think about. This, again, guys, is just a 4-week course. It doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be complicated. It needs to be direct, clear, and simple. You will scope creep. I guarantee it. Scope creep is a technical babble term. So here's the definition. It means you start adding other things into it. Beware of that. Once you know your specific pain point and you have a specific objective for them to accomplish with that pain point, i.e. the benefit, stick with that. Nothing else matters. Everything that might come up in the scope creep, you can add to a bigger course. That's where your big $2,000 course comes into view. You're like if I was doing a shame one like that, then the big course would be connecting them back to the happiness strategy, because that's an in-depth journey. So, there's a step ladder right there, that kind of thing. So don't scope creep. It'll come in, but use that information. It's like, oh, I would like to do this too. Cool. Now you're starting to outline a bigger point of view for yourself. Well, that's my recommendations on that. Next class, Monday at 1 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. I'm going to release a list of technical resources, and we're going to discuss those resources on Monday. We're going to discuss what you've come up with your course details. This is kind of the technicality of it, the bones of what you're creating. So it'll be a little more freewheeling that way. And then the Friday the 27th, we're going to work on what's called a pitch. This will be based on Juliet Tangen's material called the 7-figure pitch. Because if you don't know how to sell yourself, you're not going to make money very easily. So you got to have an effective pitch. I'll give you an outline on how to create that. We'll practice it a bit. And then the following Monday, which is the 30th, we'll have a Q&A, kind of connect, see where you guys are at, share what our experiences have been, and then get you connected or start seeing what you're creating so that we can support each other in making this leap. Okay, guys? And then we'll go from there, because if you want another class, you want more support, we can always do that during this really exciting fun with COVID-19. Just make some good come out of this nightmare that we get to deal with here. So quarantine is fun. Any thoughts or questions? Anything you guys want to shoot at in the time we have remaining? Because I got 20 minutes before I go and connect with my community. So I'm here for you.
Sorry, I wasn't here at the beginning because someone came. Is this regarding building a class or building a, what were you defining at the beginning? I'm sorry.
This particular class is outlining who you target. Okay, so the pain you solve, who has that pain, the benefit, the differentiation you bring to it, and then the benefit. So we're really outlining, clarifying who you're going to target with your online course, and then outline the course a bit. So there's
exactly. So it's actually how to build a course, not how to build a private practice. Is that what you're saying?
No. Yeah. This is not a practice. If you want a coaching practice, there's a lot more that comes into this.
No, I have a practice. It's more about the class. What I was telling you about, I teach the dolphin dance more.
Yep. Yeah, this is about class. And it's also about getting you past the technical hurdles that show up with that class. Because that's where a lot of people get hung up, is on the technical angle. And so that's what we'll address on Monday, is some of the technicalities.
Exactly. Okay. Very good.
I have a question.
Hey, Lee, what's up?
Hi. So I also was late, and I was wondering if there's, I know you said that you're going to do a recording of this, but do you have just the presentation slides?
Yeah, I can give you the slides as well. That's a really, yeah, let me note that down, and I'll just include the slides. Okay. So one thing you need to know about the slides, and this is one thing you don't want to do that I did, the slides are going to, I use a proprietary piece of software for my presentations. Don't ever do that. Use something open source like OpenOffice or something. But it exports the slides in landscape, and so they can print weird. Okay, it's just a warning there. So.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll talk about pitfalls of technology and proprietary systems next week. So, but yeah, you'll have the slides and you can run through them, and then if you go through the slides with the course, it'll make a lot more sense, because the slides are not all that in depth. They're really, really simple.
Yeah, I just like having an outline already written while I'm listening.
Like a point of reference. Yeah, that makes sense. I will definitely do that. Cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I have to bounce, but I just want to say thank you very much for everything. Thank you for your time. This was really awesome. I look forward to the next class, and I'll be reaching out via PM.
Okay, will do. Thank you, Carl. Have fun.
Bye.
Be safe out there.
Yeah, stay healthy, everyone.
Yeah, stay COVID free. Oh.
I think that there is a feedback or something. I'm hearing voices.
It's probably, oh yeah, Lee's got something going on in the background, so that was my stuff. Okay. So is there any questions anybody has? Anything they want to shoot at before we conclude today?
Yeah, so I would like to teach the class that is, I call the quantum healing, Dolphin Dance Quantum Healing. And so it's about emotional freedom technique and how to do it. So it's more for therapists or for whoever wants to become a therapist. Does this apply or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you want to train therapists in this model. Is what I'm hearing. Am I on target there?
Yeah, or would-be therapists. Like, for example, it's a class that it could be included to become an aquatic body worker or to become a coach or just to add to your practice as a massage therapist and so on.
Okay, there you go. That would be your angle is, hey, you want to make your practice more effective? Would you like to become a practitioner? You know, that would be like a 4-week course on like, here's a glimpse into the power of my method. Now you can, it gives them a glimpse, gives them some familiarity with it. And then if it's effective for them, then you can say, hey, okay, I can train you in this. Here's my big course in training you to do this for others and also make an income doing something you love or something like that.
Yeah, so for example, the course is articulated in 5 days and around 5 to 6 hours a day.
That's a pretty intense course. You would want this particular course to be very simple because you want to get people, it's almost like when you go to the store and they have those little samples for food.
Yes.
That's what this particular course we're talking about right now, this little 4-week thing needs to be. It needs to be a sample, not a meal.
So a 4-week, you're saying like an hour and a half 4 times?
If that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like my Sorry Not Sorry course is a 4 videos that total about 25 minutes.
So a total of 2 hours, more or less?
If that, yeah.
Okay.
If that. So it doesn't have to be very long. It just needs to connect to a pain point and produce a result for the person so that they build trust in you, hope in what you can provide them, and then you can convert them to a paying course or a larger course for you. But really this goal is to help you get into something that really works in building market share. It's gaining trust of the market and giving them a way to know you so that you can sell to them something.
So it's an advertising too.
Yeah, it's a lead magnet. Yeah, it'd be a lead magnet technically.
Lead magnet. Okay,
Yeah.
That's your techno bubble.
Bingo. Yeah, lead magnet is something that brings in a person, converts them to a lead so that you can start educating them on how you approach things, and then you can pitch them. You can invite them to buy.
Okay, and you're saying a video because then you put it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if your course has a video with it, sure. Some do, some don't.
Yeah. So if it doesn't, then you post it where?
Well, we'll talk about where to put things next week, but you got to know what you're doing first.
Sure.
There's no use in figuring out what the technicalities are until you know what you're doing. Right.
Okay.
So if I'm going to go to Hawaii, for instance, first of all, I need to know if I'm going to Hawaii, and then I can determine how I'm going to Hawaii.
Yes.
So there's this formula I use and teach. It's called what, how, who. What do I want or what do I need? How do I want it? How do I want it or how do I need it? Who lines up with that? And this approach I'm using here is based on that.
Okay.
What pain am I solving? How do I solve that pain? Who has this pain to solve? Boom,
Yes.
boom, boom.
Okay. So for example, I have a page, an event on Facebook that describes the course, Dolphin Quantum Healing. So it has a picture and has a description of the course. Okay. That is a pitch?
That would be a pitch for that course, yeah.
Okay. And so what you are going to teach is more or less how to build on the pitch.
Yeah, this is all about helping you build like that lead magnet into your course. Now, Friday there'll be a pitch script you can use on that page for your larger course or for this one or anything you offer or that you sell. But really, what I'm offering here right now is how to go from the offline world using a 4-week simple course that addresses one simple problem, creates a simple result for somebody so that they get to know you.
Okay. So in some way, if they wanted to come to Hawaii, then they would have this lead magnet that kind of entices them to come to Hawaii for the in-person
Sure.
workshop, for example.
Yeah, if that's what you want. Yeah, you give them a little 4-class or 4-week course that teaches them a bit about your method, gives them a taste of it. They get that sample, and then that can convert them to more interest in either working with you one-on-one in person or whatever you create after this.
Yes, or come to Hawaii for the intensive course, or making the Hawaii course a digital course so that people can participate even if they are sequestered at home.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Go for it, Lee. You'll have to unmute yourself, though. Or I can unmute you.
No, I got it. Sometimes people get muted and you can't unmute yourself, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
that was the
yeah,
case.
Zoom does that sometimes.
Yeah. So my question is, if you have an example of courses that have that kind of build up, I definitely can see myself having scope creep that you were talking about. I do that in many ways because I have a lot of different skill sets that I offer, and keeping myself centered and not giving too much is something that because I identify a need and then I'm like, oh, well, I can feel that, I can support that need, and then but not keeping myself contained and compartmentalized so that I don't get burned out.
Right.
And I just was wondering if there's an example of that like trajectory.
Yeah, the
like
ladder.
If you have one or.
Yeah, I have actually, I do a master class that's an hour. It's about 15 minutes long. It's free. And it teaches people about what's called the discard trauma cycle or narcissistic abuse cycle, and how that impacts their identity through their value, voice, and vision. And then it connects them to my primary offer called the happiness strategy. That's how I did it. I used to do it in a 4-week course. I've done it in an 8-class thing. I've done it in a number of different ways, but that format has currently been the most effective format for converting people from a lead to a student or a client. So that's one way of doing it. I've done like the 4-week method. I've done that with my Sorry Not Sorry system, which is making sorry guilt-free, because my target market's narcissistic abuse survivors, codependents, or people pleasers. And that is a huge, huge thing. I had the privilege of having I create these little listicles called quick lists for my market. And one of them, how to say sorry and when not to say sorry, went viral to the tune of 150,000 shares on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
Brought me on the news and stuff. So I created the Sorry Not Sorry in response to that, because that's what people were looking for. And then that led them into the happiness strategy.
Got it.
So it's, if you find a really hot pain point in your market, create a little 4-week or 4-day or 4-class, something around it that really connects them to the pain and then connects them to a benefit, to return on result, because that will build trust in them and your capabilities. And then you can pitch them on your bigger system. So
did you have a bigger system set up when you did that? You did?
Yeah.
Because you were ready when it hit.
Yep. Yeah. I was fortunate to have everything in place when that hit. That was kind of exciting. But it's getting you started here so that you can build the big thing. But right now, you can take this 4-week thing and you could sell it for $5. You could I had one I sold for $97. Sometimes people will pay for them right up front, especially if they've been following you for a while. But because you're going from local to digital, it's most likely most people aren't going to know who you are. So there's not going to be a high, positive, warm regard. There's not going to be a lot of trust. They're not going to know, like, or trust you yet. So you got to build that. And an effective way is solving someone's problem with a very simple process right up front, and then being really persistent with that. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that sounds really compelling, honestly. And I think it's going to give me a lot of food for thought in terms of what I can distill down into is something that is presentable and not necessarily, is the skills and the concepts that I work with, but doing it in an online or even removed process so that I'm not even present. It's because what I'm hearing from you is that the course is not necessarily even where you're interacting with them.
Yeah.
They're just videos.
Yeah, the Sorry Not Sorry one was 4 videos, about 5 to 10 minutes each, completely automated.
Wow.
And the happiness strategy is fully automated. I also teach it live because I iterate the course a lot. I evolve it a lot. So I teach it live 3 times a year, but people sign up and go through the automation system, and then they want the live classes. They start with each iteration. So that one's a little complex. But then I have another system called Codependence to Confidence, which is a 24-week healing system for trauma bond or love addiction and the emotional trauma of narcissistic abuse that's completely automated. They'll email me and I'll respond to them, but that's less than 10% of the 130 people going through that course right now.
Wow. So
I don't get a lot, but I get a lot of feedback on results because there's surveys and stuff. So
yeah,
that's not, you don't have to do a whole lot of work, and you don't have to drain yourself to get people to have results.
Right.
I teach.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I teach 2 hours a week in the happiness strategy, and then twice a week I have what's called live mentoring hours for an hour. So that's 2 hours. So it's 4 hours total to connect with my students, to give them support, help them out. And I'm dealing with people with deep trauma, right? And then right now they're in week 10, and they're consistently getting freedom, more and more peace, more and more freedom from the gaslighting and the shame, the emptiness, the loneliness, the obsession with the narcissist. Most of them are reporting they just don't care what people think anymore. They're just really happy that they know what they think about themselves and what they feel now. That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And that's,
that's how I came. I mean, I have my own trauma history, and so I just started reading some of your stuff, and I was like, this is real. And I also work with, but I use, that's one of the things I'm challenged with, is that I use ecotherapy, which is outside and being in nature.
Oh God, now it's good.
I know.
Damn. And that's such a powerful therapy too.
So, and I work with children and families and family systems. So as like the ecology of your family and the ecology of your being. And a lot of that has been, I came out of being trauma informed as an educator and learning about ACEs and things like that, and to help families deal with that, like intergenerational trauma stuff. Yeah. So, I'm flooding with ideas about how to translate that into.
If you're not sure what to choose, ask your clients what they would like.
Like what would help them right now?
Yeah.
Kind of
What's your biggest? I put it out as a question of, what is your biggest pain point right now? Where's your biggest pain? See, the only reason I made this Sorry Not Sorry thing is because of 150,000 shares on a Facebook post. That's a signal, right?
Right.
It's like that matters. So it's like, people want this, give them what they want, and then connect them to what they need. And now trends
Right.
right through it. So
Yeah, that makes total sense.
So
Cool.
that-
I'm jazzed.
yeah. No, you can kick some butt for sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited about
Okay.
it. But I just
Awesome.
had so many questions on how to create it, and you're just like answering it. It's really
Makes
great.
it easy. Yeah, go through today's class once I get it uploaded, and then let me know of any questions. I've never taught this before, guys. This is just me giving you my raw experience with this. It's so we'll see how well it works. I just couldn't manage expectations, but this is the stuff that made a huge difference for me 4 years ago when I went from face-to-face or like just over the phone, over Skype, or to the digital content world. And yeah, you're going to save yourself a lot of time and money on these things. That it's cost me a lot of time and money. I mean, last year was the first year I made a profit on this venture. So it took a long time.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend that much time once you really understand what you're doing. So.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. I figured that it's a great way to contribute because I know how scary the market is right now with the way COVID has impacted people's willingness to invest and to sell and to buy, and especially with local, because they can't come to you and you can't go to them. And we have at least, realistically at a minimum 90 days of dealing with this in the format that it's in. So we have to be really proactive. So I figured, hey, I've got a skill set that's working. I'll see if it works for everybody else. And so here we go. Okay, guys, I appreciate you. I'm going to let you go. Monday, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, my time. There will be an event in Facebook. So I'll post it there. Then I'll invite you to it so you can get the reminders through Facebook. And then if you have any questions, just post them in the community. I'll respond as I'm able. Be safe out there. Kick some butt. Appreciate you. And as always, with my little picture line, remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping because you really are. Okay. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you
too.
so much.
Thank you, Marshall.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Really appreciate.